James Donaldson here, and I'm bringing you a video on the Heckler Koch Mark 23. Remember, all items in these videos are acquired by a third party or just myself, and so there's no back and forth between me and any vendors. Let's get on with it. So jumping into the meat and potatoes, it is 8.5 inches long, 5.91 inches high, and then the width with the lever is 1.54 inches. And then the bare length is 5.2 inches. And the weight is 31.20 ounces with an empty magazine. Now, polymer and steel are what it's constructed of, although I tend to think that maybe like vibranium or whatever Mjolnir was made out of might have been involved as well. And the MSRP is $2,969 dollars. So, yeah, it has gone up recently before me making this video. Now, obviously it's a part of my long project of combat handgun comparisons, but there's really some things that stood out and kind of interesting to experience, and so I wanted to give it its own video just because of what a remarkable gun it is. So, what's included, I hate unboxing videos. Sometimes I'm tempted to do them because I see the amount of views they get, but no, I must resist. It's asinine and I refuse to be a part of it. So, you get the gun, of course, in a box. It's going to come with paperwork, magazines, of course that stupid lock, and then magazines for a total of 2, by the way. Now, the design, what makes it unique? Well, one of the big things compared to USP, which I forgot to mention in the Heckler Koch video I did, is this is capable of shooting 45 Super and plus P, and I think plus P plus 45 ammunition, and that is a pretty big deal. So this gun is very robust. Now granted, you know, at the end of the day when you're comparing it to USP, it's like, okay, so the USP could survive the Oklahoma City bombing, and this could survive Hiroshima. Yeah, well, you can't survive either of those, so it gets a little moot at that point. But do you want someone to take this gun off your dead body and use it on other people? I guess it's free to decide. Now, this was made with very specific guidelines in mind, and then there were other guidelines that were thrown by the wayside and told they didn't need to worry about, like size and weight. Granted, it ended up getting passed up by some people because of the size and weight. Some of those people were the people that put all those constraints and lack of constraints in the first place. Very interesting story behind this. I recommend you check out Forgotten Weapons or someone like that. Now, it is Browning action. It is hammer fired, and basically what I was told about it is, don't think of it so much as a, factory awesome gun. Think of it as a custom 1911, like from Dan Wesson or Nighthawk or someone. Basically, it's just internal values of the design and how it was executed when manufactured. They just make it a next level gun, and I could see that in side-by-side comparisons when running bill drills and Mozambique drills between this and the USP 45 Tactical, and even some of the other guns, the H&Ks, F and X, for that matter. I shot it faster, it grouped better, and it was just accurate as all hell. Now, I think the weight to a degree is heavy, but they balanced it right. So, where I was saying I actually shot it better than the USP, and usually I shoot shorter guns better, like Glock 45 better than a 17 or a 34. I shot the HK 45 Compact Tactical better than the HK 45 Tactical. So usually, but this isn't an identical and just longer gun than the USP. There are other differences between the two, and just something about how it all worked. It was incredible to shoot. Now the controls, they are fantastic. They're my favorite controls out of all the H&K guns. You can only put it in safe when it's cocked back. That would be the only thing I would change, but at the end of the day, I really don't care because I'm going to use the safety. It's because it's cocked. I may employ the safety if it was decocked, but I don't have to do that personally, so it's okay that I can't. I love the controls because they are completely non-existent until I want them, and then they're there. It's like a superhero. It's like, hey, I'm in a burning building, I need help, and Spider-Man shows up, and then after he saves you, he f***s off and you go on about your life. Like, so hey, I need to decock this gun. Awesome. Okay, nothing's in the way. I just have all this mobility. The safety, I can't accidentally put it on. I can very easily, deliberately put it on by sliding my thumb back and then using my knuckle. And I can very easily and deliberately take it back off. I really can't foresee bumping it off either. Now, one of the things about why I like the decock feature is if I'm running it in the holster, I'm going to have it in single action with the safety on. And I have had no problems in all my shooting of these 45s switching the safety off for guns that had it and then being ready to go. Now, if I was to jam this gun in a plate carrier, which is very possible, or have it in a softer holster, where I may have a little more concern about having a gun cock sitting on me, kind of like in Sicario, then I would want to decock the gun. And, you know, if it had the safety capability, I would throw it on. This doesn't. I think it's okay. So that double action, though. My. So from the controls, right, I already raved about those. The trigger is fantastic in both double and single. Yeah, it is just so smooth. And that's really the big thing that stands out in double action. Like, you can watch the gun barely move when I fire. Really didn't move at all. But it's so smooth. So even though it's heavy, it's on the heavier side of a double action pull, or at least typical double action pull, it is so smooth. And even though it's long, again, it is just so smooth. So yeah. Now the USP, I sometimes almost felt like I was more accurate on double action. I don't know what that is. I didn't quite feel that way with the Mark 23, but I definitely was very accurate in double. Now I did not fire it holstered in double, and then, you know, basically have the first shot double action, then all the subsequent ones single. I just carried it how I would carry it. So, excuse me, moving on. Now the aesthetics, they're great. I mean, let's be honest. It's one of the most iconic guns ever made and ever featured in media. It's fantastic looking. I love when guns just are like, they just have this long, it just makes me think of old Western big iron revolvers. Like, you got this long, formidable barrel, and that's just kind of the look I get from blocky slides like Glocks, Glock 17L and 34. I think they look so cool. Functionally, I like the serrations. Aesthetically, I like no serrations. I just like this long hunk of metal. That's exactly what this has. That said, it is not a challenge at all to operate it without any kind of serrations. So, no problem there. Yeah, that's about all I got. Now, reliability, right? It's a Mark 23. It performed fantastic. Not really anything else to report on that. So, firing with gloves, there are no issues. The controls are just as easy to use as they are without, and yeah, I don't really have anything to report. Trigger's still just as good, and all that. Fit and finish, it's perfect. I mean, it's, again, you gotta consider this gun to be a handmade, custom-made 1911. It's great. It's perfect. So for cleaning, is it easy to clean? Does it get that dirty? Didn't get any dirtier than any other gun, or, you know, a normal gun. It is easy to clean. Not too many cracks and crevices, again, more than a normal gun. And then with that, it does disassemble and reassemble very easily, like pretty much any other H&K or a lot of other guns out there on the market today. Value, so what are you getting for and with this thing? This is a little touchier. It's debatable, you know. There's more to meets the eye than, you know, there's more to this gun than meets the eye. And however, the price is very steep. So you really have, that's really a question you have to answer on your own. And I'm going to touch back up on the subject again, but understand that, like, against, say, a USP 45 Tactical, this is over $1,000 more expensive than that. Is it over $1,000 better than that? Well, that's a very subjective thing, which I normally don't mind getting subjective on here, but I'm going to let you answer that. Plus, I have like 3 videos on the subject at this point, so I don't know. Again, you really need to answer that for yourself. Getting into caveats and variables. Let's go with suppression first. It's fantastic. It was more balanced than I would have thought. It ran flawlessly, you know, and it sounded great. I don't know really what else to say about that. You have to run one of these suppressed, especially if you own one. Yeah, I ran it with a primal from Dead Air. It looks great, sounds great. Honestly, it's such a big can. Some of the skinnier, like more normal 45 can sized cans, they look kind of funny on it. like they're not big enough. So the primal looks more proportional. I think with an Acro on top, it would look pretty awesome. Anyway, moving on from there. Getting into versatility, there's really not much. Basically, professional operations and home defense would be ideal uses for this, and that's about all I got. So quirks, there really aren't any, other than you maybe would qualify the proprietary rail as a quirk. I do have an adapter here. It's not too rattly with the X300A. If you get a B, the thumb screw would be quieter. Maybe recommend that. And of course you can put whatever else because it's a pick rail. So Surefire XVL2, IR device, whatever. Another quirk, the magazines. It won't take USP magazines. USP magazines will take Mark 23 magazines. Then let's get into accessory mounting. So accessory mounting is kind of a topic because I factor in a gun like this I'd like to use with night vision. So there's a couple ways to do that. I can put on an XVL2, like I said, or similar item with IR lasers, and then that's probably pretty easy. Now for about the cost of buying an XVL2, I could buy an X300 Vampire or whatever X300. I could also pay to have the slide milled and buy an Acro and put it on, all for probably less money, if not equal to an XVL2. Now granted, a lot of people aren't going to want to cut up this slide, and I understand that. So, then another thing though is I have holsters that index off an X300. I'm not familiar with any holsters that index off an XVL2. Now T-Rex Arms might make one. I kind of forgot to check before this video. But the good news is you can check, and I'll check in editing, and if they do, then I'll link it below. So there you have it. But yeah, just kind of a few things to say about the accessories, and then it really isn't any aftermarket sights for this gun. These are pretty much the sights, which I'm fine with. The interesting thing about the slide is it's cut. It's kind of like scalloped, and so that's technically normal height sights, but they are raised up. So it kind of acts as suppressor height sights. But either way, I only want taller sights if I'm using an optic. Shooting both eyes open, I look through the can. It doesn't really matter if the suppressor height sights are above a suppressor or not. And funny thing, I've noticed most suppressor height sights aren't really tall enough to see over the suppressor. So save your money. Next. So resilience and issues. I feel like I already covered this in reliability. None. It's perfect. Holster acquisition. So very hard. You can buy those old school holsters that were issued with this thing. That'd probably be the way to go, honestly. Outside of that, I'm sure you could find some Uncle Mike's holsters that will just kind of fit any old big gun. This is about the size of a Desert Eagle, or I should say is the size of a Desert Eagle, so take that for what you will. Probably no concealed carry holsters. I definitely couldn't find any. It felt silly looking. So you'd have to get a custom one or make one yourself. Some people can do that. Overt holsters, almost none as well. So especially for me where I want X300 on it, I would probably find someone around town that could custom make a holster. It'd be really great if I could give them the gun with the can on it, and then somehow they can make a holster that can hold all that, although probably not. So costs, main cost is the gun. The magazines are a bit obscene. They're like $50 or $60, I want to say. I'll correct that or put the official one right there as I normally do. But outside of that, yeah, I had to buy an adapter to put a light on it, but you may not care. And also at the end of the day, after $2,900, what's another $60 for an adapter? Jesus. Now, I've talked a lot about versus a USP 45. I don't really think I need to touch on that subject again, so just know that I think as a standalone gun, this is fantastic, and I think it is better than the USP in a lot of ways. And is it heavier and bulkier? Yes, but I don't really see that negatively impacting, at least not enough, that if we totally took price out of the equation, it'd be this gun over the USP all day. So, as I said, I really agonized over that video, and I kept rewriting the ending, having one win, and I switched it to the other. At the end of the day, it just felt irresponsible to have the Mark 23 win that competition, being so much more expensive. Because are you seeing over $1,000 on your target? No. And that over $1,000 you save by going with the USP, you can get your shooting with that gun to where you are with the Mark 23 probably pretty easily. So it just seemed a bit unrealistic for the variables that I was talking about in that. But again, at the end of the day, there's so many things I like better about the Mark 23 than the USP. In most cases, I would pick it over that. So, yeah, the close. I love everything about this gun as a gun. There are small shortcomings, but pretty much every gun has that. I would say the Achilles heel for this is the price. I would buy this gun for all the reasons outside of the price. The price is why someone might not buy this gun. However, if the price is not an issue for you, then you should absolutely buy this gun. If you can save over time to make the price not an issue, then you should do that. This gun is a representation of what can be done if you have a simple set of requirements and keep all other opportunities open, such as weight and size. Sort of like a car that is built without having to be concerned about traffic laws. Don't have to worry about the width, the weight, the size, the spacing of the axles, turn signals, any of that. This gun is an example of what can be achieved if designers purpose design something and keep kind of all other jobs out of mind. It was made for basically one type of job, and that is to function as a crew-served pistol. This has been James Donaldson with the Contemporary Gentleman and the Mark 23. Keep your composure.